Welcome to Lumberton city, which is nowadays known as Newtown, as renamed by the prestigious mayor Frank Booth, whose wise and intelligent leadership has made the city extremely prosperous, as the magnificent space elevator can be seen from this main road driving towards the city, known naturally as Frank Booth Avenue. And this part of the city of the road is known colloquially as Oil Road because of the massive amount of oil-related industry built within it. It is the perfect way to show that Newtown is a prosperous, industrial, well-employed and well-managed city, which of course has also low crime rate and plenty of nice things in it. But of course, unfortunately, the more thick traffic seems to have struck the way, so it is time to research specificities and specific landmarks of over 100 years old city of Newtown from other means of travel and voyage. Once the visitor has arrived in the Newtown, he might wonder, who is this Frank Booth, who is so important and prevalent person in this city's history? Well, he is the elected mayor, and he became mayor, and before becoming elected mayor, he was also a successful businessman who was renowned from being very nice person especially to women. And because of him being very nice person, they chose to elect him as a mayor, which of course means that Frank Booth was able to start building city to his own liking. John here is a long-time resident of Newtown, and he is approaching the city's hard and heavy industrial center and management control of the magnificently renamed Frank Booth building. It is a magnificent large building forming the basis of Frank Booth's business empire, as in addition to being a long-time mayor of few lifetimes and several terms of office, he has proven himself to be quite much immortal man into age. So his building he manages is of course very large. And of course, being a very reasonable man about interior, he has demanded that few wrecked cars are to be placed near his place. He always wants to be remember what made him actually real, true, benevolent mayor that there is. Located quite near Frank Booth Center itself is the magnificent Frank Booth Medical Center, which provides free health care to all residents of Newtown. It is a concession Frank Booth has made just because of matter of practicality, not because of his being nice man. Higher on the actual Frank Booth building and on the place colloquially known as Cliff, there is another landmark in addition to the fancy already mentioned space elevator which can be seen in its more pleasant glory. And well, damn, traffic is quite crazy. People of Newtown tend to drive quite carelessly, but luckily the observers are equipped with etherealites shields, which makes them completely able to drive through. And here is the Newtown Arch, one of the many landmarks Frank Booth has demanded to be built within his city. And there is that place where every fancy person of the Newtown wishes to pay visit to, and most of them have, because Frank Booth wants occasionally services to be free to all people. It is the Hotel Frank Booth in its all luxurious 6-star glory, although it is reportedly quite difficult to access because of quite narrow streets. industrial wasteland part of the area of the Newtown, known also as colloquially as the Hole, lies the prison of Newtown. And because of low rate of crime, prison is mostly empty. So people of the Newtown have nothing to worry about. And there's plenty of lumber trucks driving around as Newtown is still very very based on timber industry. And they are and yes, police are plentiful also in Newtown. And prison was built within the industrial part of the city as a way to make it more prison-like. Prisoners must breathe unpleasant smell of smokestacks of several waste disposal facilities located nearby, mostly which also provide Newtown with plenty of renewable energy and reduce pollution. Frank Booth believes in reduction of pollution. Only he is allowed to produce pollution. Frank Booth demanded that Statue of Liberty be rebuilt in Newtown on his glory, mostly because he likes it being a nice statue of old-fashionedly pretty state. But instead of island, it has been built to the edge of the city to overlook the ocean, which is filled with cargo ships and other ships and regular ships bringing new people to the city and taking out goods from there. And as John is equipped with fall dampeners, he can jump just easily down and walk past the fancy, long and beautifully illuminated tourist road, which is, of course, because of its name, meant to appease tourists, of which will arrive eventually to the new town. Mayor Frank Booth's progressive ideas have led to the development of the world's first functional fusion power plant within Newtown, and he is absolutely very pleased with that magnificent wonder of science. But despite all the wonders of science and technology and social buildings, Newtown is not without its quirks or strange traits. When man arrives to Newtown, he must drive through toll booths, which are very numerous in Newtown, and as an indication of him not liking anybody arriving to his city, Frank Booth has demanded that several of them are to be placed in a row to ensure that anybody arriving to the city has already paid lots of money to city's coffers, so for even the right to be there. And there's also several of these toll booth roads, which locals call with friendly names like Scam Highway and Blackmail Road, are very common sight within Newtown. They are not there because of their revenue to produce, even though they do produce revenue. They are there mostly because Frank Booth likes to be a petty asshole when he can get away with it, and toll booths are a very efficient way to get away with, as he can justify them bringing money to the city. Mayor Frank Booth has also made special care about cities being self-sufficient and clean environment, mostly because he wants to be able to make a mess of many things. So the Eden project was commissioned just for that purpose, to clean up the mess so it can be done again without no need to find a new place to mess. Within the Newtown's school district, which used to house Frank Booth University, Frank Booth Elementary School and Frank Booth High School, have all been disbanded and converted into living quarters after the fully powered educational science center of Hadron Collider, which in this case is named Frank Booth Collider, was built it provides citizens with top level of education, even though it is difficult to guess why a particle accelerator can provide magnificent amount of education. Well, it does, and Frank Booth is very pleased with that. He wants people to understand they are being led by a maniac. In the more edged-wise part of the city, overlooking the other harbor part of the town, lies Frank Booth's business empire's first center, the infamous circular, rounding, twisting Frank Booth Tower. And near it also lies Frank Booth Observatory, made to look at stars, which are quite nice. And all the streets of Newtown are always lined with trees. And this is also one of many fancy buildings Frank Booth has decided to get built in the magnificent city, as is this magnificent, beautiful Ferris wheel right next to Frank Booth International Airport, which delivers even more people to the city, and of course provides a magnificent hazards for airplanes. Despite being a modern science and education-based city, there is also plenty of very old-fashioned industry of timber industry, which all formed the basics of the whole starting cities of Lumberton's basic form of working. And within the industrial wasteland area, there has been built the sports arena Frank Booth. For of course Frank Booth wants everybody to know that this is his city. But after some sort of exodus of population, which has topped to almost 250,000, actually that's a bit of exaggeration, it's about 180,000, there is plenty of abandoned industrial buildings within a so-called timber zone, which of course annoys Frank Booth endlessly. Grain fields within the city borders, right next to magnificent express as grey highways, provides food that very often unmentioned industrial produce to occupants of the Newtown. Actually, it's not the Newtown, it's just Newtown. And of course there is rail deliveries also be made to the plentiful amount of goods produced in the city, and a vast center of modern apartment blocks next to the fields, so the farmers don't have to live in their fields, that they can just drive a little way or walk a little way and be on their homes, instead of having to live in a farm with the manure. From top of this city, of his own tower, Frank Booth admires the handiwork of God, which say his own handiwork of heavy punishment to city which refused to be happy under his leadership. And this is the end of Newtown.